Hey everyone, Vespa here. I just wanted to offer a quick bit of guidance on hypothesis testing. Okay, so as you wrap up Chapter 8 and start studying for Exam 3, how can we focus our efforts a little bit? We learned to test for 3 different population parameters, okay? So what do those tests follow distribution-wise, and how do we conduct them? Okay, if you are conducting a test for a population proportion, those test statistics follow the normal distribution. Okay, so your test statistics are z-scores if you're conducting a hypothesis test for a population proportion. So as you conduct the test for a population proportion, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do it by hand and get a test statistic, right, z0, and then you can go use the normal CDF or norm.dist in Excel, right? Or we can use some built-in functions. On your TI 83 or 84, the one prop z test will conduct a hypothesis test for a population proportion for you from either data or statistics, whichever the situation calls for. If you're working out of Excel, you're going to get your test statistic, and then we're going to use norm.dist to get our areas, right? Now remember, each hypothesis test can be a less than, does not equal to, or greater than, right? So we need to know whether or not we're getting left-tailed areas, right-tailed areas, or two-tailed areas. If we're conducting a hypothesis test for the population mean, okay, and again, these will be stated in the problems, right? So most students can sort of crank through a test okay and have the most trouble with reading through a problem and picking out what you're actually testing for. So, right? Look for it to ask you to conduct a hypothesis test for a mean, okay? And if sigma is not known, which is pretty typical, right? If you don't know mu, you probably don't know sigma, right? Then these test statistics follow the student t-distribution, okay? So in testing for a mean, right, we're going to get a test statistic T0, right, and then we can go TCDF on your TI-84 if you're going by hand, right, or we can use a built-in function. The t-test on your TI-83 or 84 will conduct a hypothesis test for a mean for you from either statistics or data, depending on which the scenario calls for. If you're using Excel, then you're going to get your T0, you're going to get your test statistic, and then you're going to use t.dist or some version of it to get your area. Right? That's going to give you your area or your probability. Okay. Now comes what most people view as the trickiest one, right? Standard deviation or variance. Okay. Now, because standard deviation and variance are never negative, they follow this completely new distribution, which was it was new in Chapter 7 anyway, and that's the chi-squared distribution, right? Which is strictly positive and is right skewed, right? So it's something like that. So if we're going at this traditionally or by hand, you're going to get your chi-squared test statistic, right? And then you're going to use chi-squared CDF, right? Now we can't get, same with the t-distribution and the chi-squared, we can't really get specific areas off of the table, because for every sample size, the number of degrees of freedom, the table changes, and so there's no way to have all those values. So we don't typically use the table to get our areas and to get our p-values here, right? We need to use technology. So again, we're using chi-squared CDF to get our p-values or our areas, testing for a standard deviation. All right. Most TI-83s or 84s don't really have a test built in for this. Some of the very new ones do, but we're not focusing on it. We're just essentially getting areas, right? If you're using Excel, right, we're using chi-squared.dist or some version of that to get our areas. Okay, so those are the three different distributions, all right, and it's different per parameter. So make sure you're reading the exercises carefully and picking out correctly what parameter they want you to test for, and that tells you what test to conduct and what distribution to use.